Hello, I'm Alan Adcock, CEO of ASC Group here in Atlanta, Georgia. And on this video for our Cyber Sentinel, we are going to discuss online voting. So I've had a couple of questions recently from people about, we've got an election coming up, and why don't we just put together a system that allows us to vote online? Um, that's an interesting proposition. There's been a lot of controversy this election cycle around voting. Things like mail-in ballots and the post office have been major talking points. So a lot of interest around how do we vote securely and make sure it's accessible to everybody. So I thought we would take a look at this through the lens of something called the CIA triangle that we talk about. We use this in looking at data security in the IT field. So the CIA triangle has three pillars to it. So the first one is confidentiality. So who is allowed to access the data and how do we control that? In terms of online voting, I would add that add to confidentiality. In addition to that, how do we ensure that voters are who they say they are in an online forum, right? So today, when in Georgia, when we go vote, we actually do voter ID. You have to have a photo ID that validates who you are at the poll. Different states have different rules around that, but that's how we do it here. So they're gonna match you up, match your ID up with your registration in the voter roll, so they know who you are. They're gonna mark you off, make sure that you're voting one time and that you've been counted there. So when we're voting online, how does somebody get authenticated to a national system like that? If you've got 330 million Americans, how do you know that when somebody logs in to a voting system that they are who they say they are? This is a huge problem that we're going to have to figure out if you're ever going to get to an online voting situation. The next pillar that we're going to want to talk about is integrity. So is the data the correct version and has it been corrupted in any way? So this covers, all right, so once I've gone to the poll and I have cast my vote, how do we guarantee the integrity of that vote throughout the entire process? How do we make sure that it's not digitally changed someplace down the line? And that it's the correct information is entered and it stays that way. The new system that we use here in Georgia that we just used for some primaries, there's actually we actually have an electronic record and a paper record that is generated when we vote, and so they can match those up if there's any questions about the integrity of that data. It's a fairly complicated system. It's frankly seemed overcomplicated. I haven't studied that system a whole lot to understand all the moving pieces of that, but it was significantly more cumbersome than the system we used to use. So in a national online voting system, we're going to have to make sure that once that digital vote is cast, that's protected in various databases. We have to be able to track that through the whole thing and make sure it's not, the integrity of that is not corrupted in any way. So the last piece of the CIA triangle is availability. Can the data be accessed? This one is going to be huge, I think, for making an online voting system work. So can users access the voting system? We saw with the rollout initially of the Obamacare system, where everybody tried to log into the web portals for that to look at health insurance. It was a small percentage of Americans that tried to do that, and the system crumbled initially. It took a long time for them to get those systems up to where they would stay up and people could apply for that insurance. What's going to happen to a national voting system that is all online and you have 330 million users trying to access it all in one day? That's going to be a real problem. What do you do about communities that do not have good internet coverage? What do you have to do? What do you do with people who just are not computer people, that don't use computers every day? This is going to be a challenge for them. Is this going to be, is it going to suppress voting from different communities based on their access to technology? And then once you deploy a system like this, there are all kinds of attacks that can happen against an online system. So you're open up to, the first thing that comes to mind is DDoS attacks, which is a denial of service attack. So imagine all these people trying to go after these online voting systems in the same day and just taking them offline. I don't know, I think that would probably be the biggest DDoS target in history. Just people going after it to take it down. Some people could be foreign actors trying to mess with our elections. This just opens up a huge can of worms with what could be what people would try to do to target that system. So part of the way we do voting today, and part of what makes it very hard to manipulate, is that voting is controlled by the states. So each state has a Secretary of State who's responsible for voting in that state. And then those states used hundreds of different voting systems based on which counties you're in or which cities you're in, whoever's controlling that voting system. So if somebody wanted to manipulate our elections in a large scale, they're going to have to go in and infiltrate hundreds and hundreds of different systems. Which makes it very difficult to make meaningful adjustments or meaningful manipulations to that en masse. So this kind of falls into the if it's not broken, don't fix it category. I don't see us going to an online voting platform anytime in the future because of the challenges of integrating and solving those problems defined by the CIA triangle. I think that our election system today is fairly robust, and I think we just need to leave that alone for now. So anyway, that's ASC Group and Cyber Sentinel's take on online voting. If you've got any questions you'd like us to cover on Cyber Sentinel, please reach out to us on social media at #CyberSentinel, and we'll see you next time.